Episode number 871. When conversation stops, conflict escalates.
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you, and where are you?
Oh, I feel like I finally have a week at home. I'm in Austin, Texas this week and enjoying having a week working from my home office.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in previous podcasts I was in the Philippines and in Vietnam. They were both great events, and so I'm home this week.
Yeah, oh, wonderful. And what are you sharing with us today?
My topic today is about conversation and conflict. And when rational conversation stops, conflict escalates, whether it be in our personal relationships, BNI, or general business dealings. When communication breaks down, things tend to go from bad to worse. As someone who has spent a considerable amount of time studying human interaction and communication, I can tell you without a doubt that conflicts don't just escalate out of nowhere. They often start small and grow bigger as conversations break down. And I've seen that in BNI over and over again. One of the most common reasons for conversation breakdowns is a lack of active listening. Active listening is an essential part of communication that involves fully understanding and empathizing with the other person's point of view. And when someone feels like they're not being heard or understood, they're likely to become defensive and resistant to what the other person is saying. And that all sounds simple, but the truth is that, when you're talking or when you're talking to someone and they're speaking to you, shut up, listen, be quiet, pay attention to what they're having to say. If you don't, it's one of the ways that conflict escalates. To avoid that kind of conflict, it's essential to practice active listening. And this means that instead of just waiting for your turn to speak, you're fully engaged in the conversation and you're seeking to understand the other person's perspective. And by doing so, you can create a more productive dialogue that can lead to a resolution of the conflict. Another common cause of conversation breakdowns is when one or both parties are focused on being right rather than finding a solution. And this is a common problem in business settings where individuals may be more concerned with protecting their own interests than finding a mutually beneficial solution. Certainly true in BNI situations. If all you do in any scenario, if all you do is focus on the problems, you become an expert on problems. However, when you focus on solutions, you can become an expert on solutions. And in a few weeks, I'm going to have a guest on, Mark McCurgow, who's the author of the book Solutions Focus. And we're going to talk further about this in an upcoming podcast. When people are more focused on being right than finding a solution, they tend to become very rigid in their thinking and less willing to compromise. And this can quickly escalate a conflict as both parties become more entrenched in their positions. One way to avoid this is to approach conversations with a mindset of collaboration rather than competition. And by focusing on finding a solution that works for everyone rather than just you're more likely to create a conversation that leads to a successful outcome. One of the most significant causes of conversation breakdowns, just to cover an important topic here, is the lack of trust. Trust is essential in any relationship, whether it's personal or professional. And when trust is broken, it's difficult to establish a productive dialogue, as each party is likely to be skeptical of the other's intentions. So to build trust, it's important to be transparent transparent and honest in your communications. Tactful, diplomatic, but honest. This means being open and upfront about your intentions, and your expectations, and your goals. Again, diplomatically. And by doing that, you create a foundation of trust that can help sustain productive conversations and prevent conflicts. In addition to the causes of conversation breakdowns that I've just mentioned, it's important to recognize the role that emotions can play in escalating conflicts. This is so true in BNI scenarios. Emotions can be powerful drivers of behavior, and when individuals feel angry, frustrated, or resentful, it can be difficult to maintain a productive dialogue. Therefore, it's important to manage your emotions during a conversation, especially if you're feeling upset or defensive. One way to do this is to take a step back, take a few deep breaths before you respond. And this can help you to calm down and approach the conversation in a more rational, objective manner. So, to review what I've said already, when conversation stops, conflict escalates. Clear, open, honest, and direct communication is the way to resolve most conflicts. And to prevent this from happening, it's important to practice active listening, focus on finding solutions rather than being right, building trust in your relationships. And by doing these things, you create a more productive and successful dialogue. There's a book that I highly recommend on this topic. Probably one of the best books I've read about dealing with conflict between individuals. And that book is Crucial Conversations. It is a fantastic book, Crucial Conversations. I've used it many times, and it helped me through a really serious problem that I talk about in the book I wrote called The Third Paradigm. And here are a few of the things that I learned out of the book, Crucial Conversations. One is be aware of feelings, which I've already mentioned. The second is acknowledge. Acknowledge their anxiety. I can see you're upset. This must be really difficult, or you sound very frustrated. Be quiet and listen. Ask questions. Restate the concern. These are all topics that came out of Crucial Conversations. Focus on a mutual purpose. Focus on a mutual purpose. And to aggressive statements, ask, is there another choice than that? Probably the single most effective technique that I have found in the book is called the feasible and. That's the phrase, the feasible and. Here's how it goes. Is there a way to do X and be able to accomplish Y? That's the feasible and. Is there a way we can do X and still accomplish Y? And that is sort of a mindset reset that gets people to think about both perspectives in a very, very diplomatic way. When one of the potential problems is that when people purposefully withhold meaning or information from one another, it undermines the organization. So that's why it's important to communicate. Otherwise, what you have happening if you're not communicating is you get people who are quietly criticizing and passively resisting another topic out of Crucial Conversations. At the end of the day, communication is an essential part of not only our lives, but in particular BNI meetings, and conflicts are inevitable. However, by focusing on improving our communication skills and building stronger relationships, we can minimize the impact of conflicts and we can create more productive and successful outcomes. As the old saying goes, it's not what you say, but how you say it. By focusing on building positive relationships and improving our communication skills, we can create conversations that lead to positive outcomes and prevent conflicts from escalating. So the next time you find yourself in a difficult conversation, remember to listen actively, focus on solutions, and build trust. By doing so, you can create a better outcome for everyone involved. In running an organization, Priscilla, with hundreds of thousands of members, tens of thousands of locations, I've really learned that effective communication is the key. I'm not always a master at it, but I find that when I'm at my best at listening, and communicating diplomatically using some of the techniques that I've just talked about, magic happens. And it happens with a conscious effort to hear the other party, communicate, and always look for that feasible and. That's my message for today, Priscilla. Any thoughts?
Oh, I think that's great. I think it's really useful, all of the different aspects of it, and especially the listening part.
Yeah, and for me, I found that the act of listening works best when you restate the statement. Let me understand what you're saying. You're saying this, and you'll find that sometimes they'll say, "No, that's not what I'm saying." Okay, I'm sorry. Explain it to me again. Or
Uh-huh.
they'll say, "Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm really ticked off over that." And then, okay, so now you know where it's going, and that leads you to the place where, okay, I see where you're coming from. How can we accomplish what you're concerned about and be able to do this? And so you look for mutual objective and a focus on solutions rather than the problem. Because if all you do is focus on the problem, you become an expert at the problem. Whereas if you focus on solutions, you can become an expert on solutions. That's my message for today, Priscilla.
That's great. Thank you, Dr. Miser. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks so much for that great information. This podcast is sponsored by MeisnerAudioPrograms.com. These audio programs will provide you with the tools and the inspiration to powerfully enhance your BNI experience. So check out the great material that's available to you at MeisnerAudioPrograms.com and then use the promo code IVAN50 for 50% off of everything. All of the proceeds go to the BNI Foundation. Thanks so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.